Hey everybody, I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. And, of course, it's time for a new edition of the Year of Mice and Rats. And I think I may need to give a little backstory because today's episode is from a franchise that I haven't talked about in a very long time. Now, if you may recall, during July 2015, I looked at Don Bluth's classic animated movie, An American Tail, and to this day, it's an emotional childhood mouse classic. And a year later, I joined up with my friend Daniel Guzman to look at the sequel, Fievel Goes West, which has got to be one of my favorite animated movies and favorite animated sequels ever. However, since this is the Year of Mice and Rats, I think I should take a look at the final two movies in the franchise. So, let's resume with the third movie. Released to home video on February 15th, 2000, the movie is An American Tail 3, The Treasure of Manhattan Island. Now, on to the plot of the movie. In the historic melting pot of 19th century New York, Fievel and his family are struggling to make their American dreams come true. But one day, while wandering in the subway tunnels, Fievel and Tony discover a mysterious treasure map that leads to a secret world of Native American mice living beneath the city. While meeting with the Indians and getting to know the Princess Cholina, Fievel finds something even more precious than gold and jewels. So, what do I think of the movie? Well, in all honesty, I enjoyed it. Sure, it's not better than the last two movies, but it's still a sequel that I grew up with as a kid. But now, let's move on to Mustang notes. The movie was directed by Larry Latham, who's best known as a producer and director on Disney's Tailspin, as well as a storyboard artist and designer for Disney's Adventures of the Gummy Bears, Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, and DuckTales the Movie Treasure of the Lost Lamp. He was also a producer, director, and storyboard artist on Disney's Bonkers. Now, believe it or not, this was the very first American Tail movie to receive a direct-to-video release. It was animated overseas by Japanese studio TMS Kyokuchi Corporation, who also worked on Little Nemo Adventures in Slumberland. Also to note, this was the final film appearance for Mama Mouskowitz's voice actress Erica Yan before her death on January 27, 2019. As for the animation, well, in my eyes, the hand-drawn animation is pretty good, but it doesn't really hold a candle to Don Bluth or Emblemation's style. And while this movie is set in 19th century New York, like the first film, I think the streets look pretty good in a mouse's point of view. Plus, places like the Cheese Factory and Dr. Dithering's museum are cleverly designed. Also, I like the scenery in the underground tunnel beneath the subway. Plus, I think the death traps in the tunnel are way more dangerous than the booby traps from Disneyland's Indiana Jones. Thankfully, there is a way around the traps by pressing on a paw print on a native mural. Also, I kind of have a feeling that while the second movie was described as a dream, I think that this and the fourth movie are set before Fievel Goes West. As for the story, well, it's okay. There are a few hiccups, but on the bright side, it does give a nice moral regarding the American dream and what the greatest treasure really is. Also, there are a few scenes that bring back a lot of fond childhood memories from the first movie. Now here's where we come to the movie's song numbers. First we have the opening song, We Live in Manhattan, sung by a group of cheerful city mice. To me, this song is nice, and it's kind of similar to songs like There's No Captain America and Way Out West. But unlike those songs, in this, the mice are pretty happy staying right where they are. Next we have the villain song, Friends of the Working Mouse, sung by Mr. Grasping, Mr. Toplofty, and Mr. O'Bloat, after coming up with an evil plan to get their factory workers on their side by giving them a common enemy in the form of the Indian mice. While singing, they hope that this plan will result in their workers becoming more loyal, and that they won't complain when they force the workers to increase their output without getting a raise in pay. Finally, there's Anywhere in Your Dreams, sung by Fievel and Cholina. In my opinion, this song is my absolute favorite in the entire movie. It's about how anything can happen in your dreams. And what I like about this is that during the song, Fievel and Cholina take a ride in a series of baskets hanging over Cholina's village, while Tony tries to stop them because he thinks it's way dangerous. And now let's move on to the characters and the voice actors who brought him to life. Our main character, Fievel Mouskowitz, is this time voiced by Thomas Dekker, who played Littlefoot in several of the Land Before Time sequels, and he was Jesse in the 2010 Nightmare on Elm Street remake. In my eyes, Fievel is still the same curious and adventurous little mouse that he was in the first movie, and I like that Fievel has high hopes and dreams for American life. Also, throughout this movie, Fievel must struggle with guilt over what the other European mice have put Native American mice through. But I'm glad that Fievel shows the tribe that at least the settling mice aren't all bad. Plus, I like when Fievel reminds his father about why they came to America. Fievel's sister Tanya is this time voiced by Lacey Chabert, best known as Eliza Thornberry from the Wild Thornberry series. In this film, Tanya's personality has become kind of sassy and sarcastic, and she gets very jealous of her brother getting to go on exciting adventures all the time, while she's stuck at home doing laundry. When adding her sarcastic comments to family arguments, she's always told to not help. However, I like when Tanya forms a sisterly bond with Cholina while showing her around New York. And I also like when Tanya is finally allowed to accompany Fievel and Tony to take Cholina back home. Next we come to Fievel and Tanya's father, Papa Mouskowitz, once again voiced by Nehemiah Persoff. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. In this movie, Papa works at the cheese factory, and because of the terrible working conditions, he becomes scruffy and worn down. However, I did like that Papa considers his son Fievel as his inspiration, and I like the scene when he warns his family that an angry mob and the police are after Cholina, as well as the scene where he stands up for Tony, and the scene where he redeems his co-workers by reminding them that their behavior is why they came to America, and that they should work together to become friends with those different from them as the fellow Americans that they are. Next we have Tiger, once again voiced by the late, great Dom DeLuise. In my eyes, Tiger is still my favorite character in the American Tail movies, and in this movie, I think Tiger is still a funny and loyal character. Also, despite the fact that Tiger accidentally put Fievel and Tony in danger when he accidentally activated the subway train, I like that he joins Fievel's expedition to the Indians' hideout. And when he saves Dr. Dithering from being executed at the butcher shop. By the end of the movie, Tiger has been promoted into police chief. Next we have Tony Taponi, voiced again by Mae Whitman's mother, Pat Music, who also voiced Elsa Frankenteen in Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School. In this film, Tony has to deal with new adult responsibilities while working at the cheese factory, and he wishes to be rich. But still, Tony tries to balance this while having fun with Fievel. To me, like in the first film, Tony is still a likable character due to his Italian background, and I find it interesting that Tony has had some work experience with Dr. Dithering sometime prior. Speaking of which, next we come to our first new character, Dr. Dithering, a British archaeologist who works at the Museum of Natural History, voiced by the late Renee Auberjonois, who was in Little Nemo Adventures in Slumberland, The Cat Returns, The Little Mermaid, and The Last Unicorn. After Fievel and Tony find an ancient Native American map underneath the subway tunnel, they bring the map to Dr. Dithering to translate it. He identifies the map as a diagram of an underground tunnel system that leads to the underground Lenape village, and to our greatest treasure. Next we come to Cholina, voiced by Elaine Bilstead, who sadly died of a heart problem on January 30th, 1999. Cholina is the princess of the Lenape Indian tribe, who lives in a big cave right underneath New York. In my eyes, Cholina is beautiful and cute, and I like that she shows Fievel and friends around her village. Plus, I like that she teaches Fievel that treasure comes in many forms other than cheese, money, gold, or jewels. And I like that Fievel offers to show Cholina around New York. Next is Cholina's father, Chief Woliso, voiced by David Carradine. In my eyes, Woliso is cautious towards Europeans and outsiders in general, but he is peaceful, and he acts only in the best interest of his tribe. Also, I think Woliso was very welcoming after Fievel offers him his mother's matzo ball soup. Plus, I think his backstory regarding his ancestors was very thought-provoking due to Europeans bringing cats, war, and disease with them. Also, I like the scene where he assigns Fievel, Tanya, and Tony to seal the underground tunnel using gunpowder. The main villains, Mr. Grasping, Mr. Toplofty, and Mr. O'Bloat, are voiced by Ron Perlman, Tony Jay, and Richard Caron. These three fat rats are the owners of the cheese factory. In my opinion, Grasping is the most evil out of the three, due to his racist personality. Plus, all three of them enslave everybody that works in their factory. Also, their most evil scene is when they round up their workers into an angry mob after convincing them that the Indians are the enemies. Next we have Police Chief McBrusk, voiced by Sherman Howard, who voiced Shere Khan in the Jungle Book Mowgli's story. This brute is hired by Mr. Grasping to keep his workers in order and punish anyone who rebels against him. In my eyes, McBrusk is a ferocious, strict, and harsh cop, and I think it's really insane that he enjoys beating and causing trouble to other mice in New York, particularly the immigrants, seeing them as troublemakers. Sheesh! Talk about police brutality! Finally, we have Dr. Dithering's traitorous assistant, Scuttlebutt, voiced by the Crypt Keeper himself, John Kassir. To me, Scuttlebutt is a silly but sneaky character. Plus, it's later revealed that he works as a spy for the cheese factory owners. And now for my final words. Overall, An American Tail 3 is not a great sequel, but it's still a very enjoyable one. Maybe due to my experience watching it as a kid, the film did bring back a lot of fond childhood memories from the first movie. The hand-drawn animation is good, but it still can never top the first and second movie's styles. Still, the songs are pretty good. The main characters like Fievel, Tony, and Tiger are memorable and fun. The new characters are decent, like Dr. Dithering and Cholina, and most of the villains are very threatening, while one was really silly. Also, the movie has a nice message regarding the greatest treasure and the American dream. So, if you're a fan of this Mouse franchise, then I suggest you check this movie out and share it with your children. I give this movie a 79% out of 100. Now, I guess you may be asking, when will I blog the fourth movie, Mystery of the Night Monster? Well, that answer may be obvious, because that blog will have to wait until October. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to join me next time, because I'm going to make one final visit to the Kingdom of Avalor. Mustang Power!